good afternoon for some of you. My name is Kristen Walker-Painemia, and I'm chair of the IUCN Commission on Environment, Economics, and Social Policy. And we're happy to have you all here, coming from all parts of the world. We are kicking off our virtual dialogue series for the Commission, where we'll cover several different topics over the next 6 to 8 months, looking at how can we build back better and understanding what a new normal or our new world will look like. And I'm very happy today to really kick off with looking at spiritual perspectives. And so I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to pass it off to the chair of our specialist group on religion, spirituality, environmental conservation, and climate justice, Lisa Zawab. Lisa? You're on mute, Lisa.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kristen, and hi, everybody. So on behalf of the IUCN Specialist Group on Religions, Spirituality, Environmental Conservation, and Climate Justice, or ReSpECC for short, I'd like to thank really from the bottom of my heart everybody for being here with us. So if this had been a normal year, the World Conservation Congress would already have been behind us, and we would all have been participating, well, those of us fortunate enough to attend, participating in, you know, different events like this one, hearing different perspectives and different voices. And we would have agreed or disagreed and basically moved on with our lives as normal. Of course, this hasn't been a normal year, and if we care enough to take this opportunity that's been given to us, like it or not, to really question normality, question how we live our lives, how we consume, how we relate to others, how we do our conservation work, question everything, then we see that, morally speaking, normality is no longer an option. And during this lockdown period, what really struck me was that the faith groups and spiritual groups and networks and interfaith networks are so quick off the mark to make really bold statements about not going back to normal. And we heard things like, no, we don't want to go back to normal. We need to build back better. We need to rethink and redefine our relationship with the earth. And this isn't a Christian message or an Islamic message or a Hindu message, but really a resounding, united human message of urgency for us to reflect and reconsider. So thank you to IUCN, to the CEESP Commission, to the Nature-Culture Initiative for allowing us this space and this time to share together, to hear other perspectives and different voices as we rethink and as we redefine. A huge thank you also to our wonderful speakers, not just for being here, but for the amazing conservation work that you all do in your own spaces and in your own ways. One of the most important spiritual teachings that I've received is from His Holiness Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche and his Maha-Ati instructions on the Great Perfection. And he said that the everyday practice is simply to develop a complete acceptance and openness to all situations and emotions, and to all people, experiencing everything totally without mental reservations or blockages. So complete openness of mind is the essential point. And I hope that we can now breathe, all of us, and be open during these discussions. So let me just tell you how this session is going to play out. We're first of all going to hear from our great speakers with the short interventions, and the rest of the time we'll spend in a moderated discussion. And we would love to hear from all of you listening in with your questions, your insights, and your comments. And you can see probably, hopefully, on your screens a Q&A button where you'll be able, well, I think people have already started saying hello. So please add in your questions there, and we'll try our best to get to them. So let me introduce you to our lovely moderator, Jessica Sweden. who can now hear us. That's great. Jessica is an environmental philanthropist. She's the founder of Synchronicity Earth, which is a UK-based charity focused on global biodiversity. She's also co-founder of a new initiative called Flourishing Diversity, which we all look forward to seeing what that's going to do. And she's also an IUCN Patron of Nature. This session is being recorded, will be made available to everybody. So without further ado, over to you, Jessica, and our panel, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's lovely to be here. I'm delighted I can hear you. We had a bit of a technical glitch, but as I put into our internal chat, beware of anything that starts well. So here we are gathered from across the globe, and I just want to thank you, Lisa and Kristen and IUCN CEESP, and also Tim Badman and Nature-Culture at the IUCN. We've all been working quite closely together and had wonderful plans for Marseille, whenever Marseille happens, hopefully in January, and we look forward to bringing more ideas to all of you. The envisioning and organizing of this meeting, I think, is really important, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to moderate this discussion. It's a privilege to be here with all of you, our listeners, and of course, this esteemed panel. So here we are in the midst of COVID-19, which for all of its complexity, tragedy, and grief, has offered a form of a global pause. This is perhaps the first time in all of our lives where we've had what one might call a shared human experience. This pause has provided a space for deep reflection, especially for those of us who may normally be too busy to create reflective space in our daily lives. It has also forced us to reevaluate ourselves, our organizations, and our societies. I'm someone who has spent her life creating ways to support change and right injustices where needed. I am linked to the IUCN through my work at Synchronicity Earth, which supports a range of initiatives working for and on behalf of the conservation of species and ecosystems that are overlooked and underfunded, shining a light on the most vulnerable. I'm also linked as a patron of nature, I suppose because I tend to think big, creatively, and I think because I have hope. I truly believe that humans have the capacity to do better and to be better. More recently, I have been involved in launching this new initiative centered around the idea that life on Earth is the most robust and therefore the most resilient when it is flourishing with diversity. And that flourishing biological diversity is deeply intertwined with cultural diversity. In fact, they are mutually enhancing. For this, we need to support diverse approaches in conservation and critically local partners and Indigenous peoples. And to do that, we need to create much more space to listen and learn. Those who know me well know that I believe in the power of dialogue, which is why conversations like these, bringing diverse voices together, are essential. So without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, Dr. Fazlun Khalid. He's the founder of the Islamic Foundation for Ecology and Environmental Science. Fazlun Khalid is synonymous with the Eco-Islam movement. He is considered one of the top 15 leading eco-theologians in the world. He made the list of the top 100 environmentalists in the UK, and he also was counted among the ranks of the 500 most influential Muslims in the world. Recognizing our current dilemmas, Fazlun Khalid will be raising issues he addresses in his book, Signs on the Earth, Islam, Modernity, and the Climate Crisis. Please, Fazlun, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Lisa, Kristen, Jessica, and the IUCN crew for having me on board. And I'm pleased to be here. And yes, these are critical times and we need to think afresh. And I'm calling my presentation, Making a Fresh Start. I think it is time now to elevate our level of consciousness to another plane of reality. We tend to believe that looking at what is now is the answer. Of course we have to, but we have to realize that our civilization is in its terminus state, and we have shown a remarkable reluctance to accept this fact. Our tendency has been to mitigate the consequences of our actions, or failing that, to adapt to the fantasies that we have created for ourselves. The result? We are making matters progressively worse, not better. What this adds up to is that we now live in a civilization that sees existence as a linear continuum of material progress. This, in fact, goes right against the grain of the natural world. We sacrifice nature on the altar of economic growth. The natural world functions in cycles, not in straight lines. Night follows day, follows night. We have winter, spring, summer, autumn, and winter again. We harvest, plow, plant, and harvest again. Then we have the rain cycle, the oxygen cycle, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and so on and on and on. The teachings of Islam refer to this patterning as the fitrah, the primordial condition of the natural world in which sentient beings were created, not least of whom was the primate with a bigger brain than most, the human species. Islamic observances are cyclical. The 5 daily prayers based on the position of the sun, Ramadan based on the sighting of the moon, the Hajj that follows an annual cyclical pattern. Last April was an interesting month. We had Easter, celebrated by the Christians, the Passover, celebrated by the Jews, Vaisakhi, celebrated by the Hindus and Sikhs, the beginning of Ramadan, celebrated by the Muslims. The Buddhists of Sri Lanka celebrate Full Moon Day, known as the Poya Day, as a public holiday every month. All these are cyclical events, responding to the rhythms of the natural world. We have managed this schizophrenia between linearity and the cyclical for nigh on 500 years. But nature is now saying no more. We have to change. The time is now, and we are receiving warning signals. We are being tested by a virus in the guise of COVID-19. Our forced incarceration in our homes has meant that the natural world is now taking a much needed breather. Fish are returning to our rivers and waterways. Turtles are returning to empty beaches to lay their eggs. Wildlife explore empty urban spaces. We have experienced a huge reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. City dwellers breathe clean air once again. The lockdown is stimulating neighborliness. The sense of community grows stronger. I experience it where I live every day. Things are changing between people. You might say our Creator is sending us an early warning signal, which has in fact preempted a message sent by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It published a newsletter last January, drawing our attention to a video they were putting out concerning the state of the world. The introductory note asserted that, and I quote, "The world economy has barely had time to recover from a string of shocks that began with the 2007 financial crisis, and we can already see another global slowdown looming large. It would seem that a mere microbe had short-circuited the process, and a global economic slowdown is already upon us, long before what the United Nations envisaged. Hopefully, this microbial invasion is only a preemptive strike, giving us early warning of the things to come if we do not change our ways. A faint hope, given past experiences. Capitalism is once again under the microscope. The writer Naomi Klein is scathing about corona capitalism and how are governments going to recover the largesse they are now throwing at their people. I see inflation, increased taxation, and austerity programs on the horizon. Joseph Stiglitz, Nobel laureate and one-time chief economic advisor to the World Bank, espouses the cause of progressive capitalism in his book, People, Power, and Profits. But the toxic nature of the monetary system that propels capitalism and our civilization seems to bypass even them. The clue to this lies in the fears expressed by the UN agency regarding the replaying of the financial crisis created by the banks that nearly brought the global system down in 2007. This event let the cat out of the bag, but nothing has changed, and the dubious privilege of creating money out of thin air still rests with the banks. The global debt ratio to GDP is fast approaching the 100% mark, and in some countries, it has already passed it. Question: will IUCN be willing to lead an appraisal of the capitalist model that is leading us to the edge of the cliff? Is it not time to redefine buzzwords such as progress, prosperity, development, and growth, if not ditch them altogether and replace them with one idea, and that is equity, justice, adl in Islam? The UK-based and well-respected New Economics Foundation observes, and I quote, "Nothing short of a great transition to a new economy is necessary and desirable and also possible. Business as usual has failed. Yet prime ministers, financial ministers, and governors of central banks are still running around trying to allay fears and convince us that this is not the case." End of quote. The issues are systemic. And for now, we are merely tinkering with technicalities. Lifestyle change based on a fresh economic paradigm is now urgently called for if we are to avoid planetary collapse and the anger of future generations. Have we any idea what we are leaving them? We need to give them a fresh start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fazlun. That was wonderful. I believe our next speaker, I don't see her on my screen, Valerian Bernard.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Oh, I don't see you, you're hiding.
It's because some people...
It says Sonia. Okay. Valerian Bernard is one of the UN representatives of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University in Geneva. She's interested in the power of spirituality and faith. She is active in the Interfaith Liaison Committee with the UNFCCC Secretariat and is also a co-founder of the Geneva Interfaith Forum on Climate Change, Environment, and Human Rights, an informal group of faith-based NGOs reaffirming the importance of ethics and the responsibility of each individual and nation to care for the earth and address climate change and its impact. Valerian, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and also thank you, Khalid, for your amazing presentation. I would like to build on it so I don't need to repeat what has been said. I would like to define as normal the condition in which a human being finds it easy and possible to function, strive, and live. The disruption of a sense of normality creates an inner sense of fear and anxiety. But for a resilient person, it can also initiate adaptability, creativity, and the desire to strive, help, and care. And this is also valid for society, groups of people. We can easily acknowledge that there are two types of need, the spiritual or inner needs and the physical needs. In his or her inner world, human beings seek to experience peace, well-being, and joy, love, and satisfaction. Living in a respectful, loving, an harmonious relationship with Mother Earth and the human family will sustain these experiences. But if the awareness of these primary spiritual needs and the sense of personal responsibility to maintain my inner balance isn't there, the race for endless physical possessions and achievements will be exacerbated. And in a way, this is what Khalid just defined about capitalism and consumption. In terms of the physical needs, the list can be endless, but clean and healthy resources in terms of water, food, and environment are vital. And in terms of human relationships, whether we're talking about the workplace, politics, or within the structure of the family and societies, these criteria of keeping our exchanges clean and healthy still apply. And that may be where we need to reinvent ourselves as a society. And for us, I was analyzing that there are two things that we need to really encourage in our work and promote in our human family. One is self-empowerment, because the state of my mind and heart as an adult is my own responsibility. I need to learn the art of creating nurturing and fulfilling thoughts and feelings and care for myself. Because only if I manage to do that and be strong, can I hold a position in our world that will allow me to help and uplift others. The need to empower myself instead of waiting for others, events, circumstances, or objects to consume. I have to find a way to develop inner power within myself. And then I can bring this presence to others and apply the strengths I have gathered in any task I choose to accomplish. The quality of the relationship I keep with myself is the foundation of my relationship with others and the environment. The other attitude is living your dreams. And I was remembering Nelson Mandela, and also, of course, a winner is a dreamer that never gives up. And of course, we would remember, I have a dream. Power of the vision I have, a vision that sees the potential the future holds with so much clarity that I can share this vision. And I think in a way, we, the faith-based people, have this kind of duty of care, the joy and hope it brings me, and the capacity to cooperate with clarity. I can share this vision, the joy and hope, with others and make it a reality. I can also join others in their vision, in their dreams. The power of setting aims in order to materialize and reach the dreams. When I realize what I truly want, I also give priority and energy to this. And I can get it or make it happen and feel disinterested in every other thing. By living my dream, I can inspire through who I am, through who you are, and what you do. So we need to dream this next phase, because one of the most self-destructive states of mind is when people are deprived of real hope. So in terms of actions, I think that when people interact with such attitudes, they will help promoting an awareness and the fact that the human beings have to make these shifts in the world that needs to change. And the relationship with nature, I think we would be able to enjoy living with simplicity without consuming things that shouldn't be consumed, creating and sustaining of your relationship with the elements in Mother Earth, and serving the elements through the vibrations and the meditations and the attitudes and relationship we have, by also paying attention to the quality of my awareness in each and all my interactions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerian, for that beautiful talk. Just listening to you is very peaceful. I'd like now to please welcome Sonia Olsen, also from the Brahma Kumaris. Sonia is a meditation teacher and the national coordinator for the Brahma Kumaris in Denmark. Sonia was instrumental in developing the Brahma Kumaris Environmental Initiative in order to meet the need for a higher environmental awareness within the international Brahma Kumaris community, and also to add the inner dimension to discussions at the UN climate change conferences. Thank you, Sonia. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and greetings from sunny Copenhagen. It's a wonderful summer day here today. And thanks to Lisa and IUCN, and nice to meet you all here, both the audience and the panelists. I like the theme, the spiritual perspectives on the new normal, but one can reflect if it was normal before the pandemic. Actually, it wasn't, right? We went to work, but it was a climate emergency, very strong so, and it's still there. So somehow it wasn't normal, but it's a very healthy discussion to have what the new normal should be. And the pandemic has also shown us that as humanity, we can act drastically with drastic measures here and now, very fast. But we also know that any long-lasting change has to come from within the individual or from within the nation. If the change doesn't come from free will or from within, the society or the individual will go back to what it was before when the pressure is off. So this is when we address climate change, we have to make sure it's coming from within our will, from within our attitude, from within the people, from within the nations, in order to be long-lasting. And I can see that here in Copenhagen now, we've been open since 18th May, more or less. Society is nearly back to how it was before. And, you know, it's amazing how fast the old stress habits comes back to people when the pressure comes off. And in Brahma Kumaris, we have identified 10 values in order to create the long-lasting change. And Lisa, she asked us to share some of these values. And Valerian, she took up respect, self-empowerment, and living your dream. And I choose being unlimited as one of the values. And of course, we know here, people of faith, that being unlimited means to expand your consciousness. So we include each and everyone on this planet and the whole environment and nature into our consciousness and into our heart, even though they might be very different to us. And I must say, I have enjoyed the work with the interfaith in the last many years, because I think we have become experts in breaking down the silence between us, between the faith. We have been gathered together by the higher purpose of Mother Earth in order to do this. And then we can share that with others also. But being unlimited also means to include the vibrational field in our service and in our communication. And during the pandemic, we have had the experience that we can stay close and connected even though we are physically distant. Now we are talking from across the world and we do feel close and connected. But then I'm asking myself, let's say next catastrophe will be that the internet goes down for a few months. Would we be able to stay close and connected to our family and to the interfaith community, the whole world, even without Zoom calls? And this is, I feel, all of us can practice to use good wishes, to use vibrations in order to stay close and connected, to be interconnected at all times. And that, of course, requires a pure heart and a pure mind. And in order to stay like that, even amidst the crisis, you know, it doesn't sort of happen by itself. We need some practice. So this is what I've started to work on myself. And I was just finally, one observation here is that now when we are opening up the society in Copenhagen, we can see how difficult it is to open up. I mean, we closed the whole society in one day, 11th March, one of the first countries in Europe. But to open up, my goodness, how difficult it is, step by step, here, there, arguments. Politicians are starting to argue. Again, they were very kindly agreeing on closing, but opening is difficult. And I was reflecting on myself that when it comes to relationship, it's maybe the same. It's very easy to cut off somebody or say, I will never see you. But in order to heal a relationship and bring it back again, it's very difficult. So one has to be very careful in shutting off or closing for any person or any individual or any group or any nation. And this is why the second value I chose was opening the heart or love. And I think the driving force here between all of us sitting here today, otherwise we wouldn't be here, would be love in one way or another. Love as mercy, as forgiveness, as compassion, as caring and sharing. And I just can see all of us awakening this love in other people so they know what they have to do with love and compassion. And then belonging also becomes becoming, right? Because when we love somebody, we become like them. So yes, that's all from my side. And thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to hear the rest of you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I'm very curious now to hear all of the 10 values and trying to work out how we might have a global teach-in and practice. I, for one, I think I'm going to be adopting the value of being unlimited. That sounds very just intriguing and also real and just it speaks to me. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dave Bookless. Dave is the Director of Theology for Rocha International, which works in practical community-based conservation and mobilizing the church to care for creation across 6 continents. Dave's global roles include teaching and writing on creation care with Rocha. And he's written a number of books, and he's recently completed a PhD on the Bible and wildlife conservation through Cambridge University. Thank you for being here, Dave. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It's great to be with you all, and I've so much enjoyed the other contributions already. I'm looking forward to hearing more, and there are lots of points of connection. I want to just share a few key words and some thoughts around those. And the first word is fragility. We've talked about this crisis that we're going through as if this is something very unusual. And yet Sonia reminded us that the world beforehand was not exactly normal. Actually, what's unusual has been the last 60, 70 years of, in most parts of the world, peace and increased material prosperity. That is not the normal human condition. The normal human condition is one of fragility and contingency. And I was really struck by a couple of verses from the book of James in the New Testament that say this: "You who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money, why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes." And so that sense of fragility and contingency is my first point, that actually we need to recognize that what was going on before COVID-19 hit us was not normal. We were in the midst of crisis, and we were fragile, and we will continue to be as we emerge from this crisis. And my second word is interdependence. I think this crisis that we are going through now has reminded us of how both globally, rich and poor, black and white, north and south, but also human and non-human, we are interdependent. This virus, as we know, is a zoomorphic virus. It crossed from nature to humanity. The how we can leave for the politicians to argue about, but we know that this came from wildlife, and that crossing happened as a result of our destruction of wildlife habitats and our over-exploitation of wildlife. We will continue to see further pandemics. We've already had SARS, Ebola, AIDS, MERS, so many others that have crossed from wildlife to humans. And we will see more unless we re-recognize our interdependence with nature, that we are part of it and we cannot live outside it. My third word is one that Fazlun commented on quite significantly. And my word was rhythm. And Fazlun talked about the cyclical nature of the seasons, of Islamic and other faith celebrations and traditions. And I think this lockdown has helped many of us recognize that our lives had lost rhythm and need a sense of rhythm. And within the Christian tradition, the concepts of the Sabbath, of the need for a rest one day in 7, of the need for the earth to rest, for the land to rest 1 year in 7, and of Jubilee, which is the 7 times 7. It's a recognition that the earth is God's and does not belong to humanity. And I was on a Zoom webinar just over a week ago as part of the Season of Creation movement, which brings together Christians from all traditions around the world. We had more than 900 people on the Zoom call and another 1,000 listening on YouTube as we looked at this subject of Jubilee for the earth and the fact that we need to re-establish these rhythms. There is a very strong chord being struck there on that subject. So fragility, interdependence, rhythm. And then my fourth word is lament. Now, lament is not the same as despair. We've heard a lot about climate despair, and all of us who work in conservation are familiar with the fact that however hard we work and whatever successes we have, the global picture is a very depressing and worrying one. But lament is a deep spiritual tradition within the Judeo-Christian tradition. It goes right back into the early days of the Old Testament. Lament is about carrying our pain and suffering, and not just ours, but that of the wider world, into God's presence, offering it back to God, so that God can then come back to us with suggestions of how we move forwards. And I've had a deep sense of lament at the world we've lost, as I've stood just a kilometre from my home on a bridge over the main motorway going into London, under the flypath from Heathrow. And during the height of the lockdown, I could look in every direction and there wasn't any traffic. There were no aeroplanes, the skies were blue, and I could hear skylarks singing. But this morning I was on that same bridge and the motorway was blocked with traffic. The planes were flying again and I couldn't hear the skylarks anymore. And so there's a real sense of lament that we need to hold and turn into something creative through this time. And then my fifth word is the word hope. Hope is not the same as optimism. Optimism is a good thing. Rocha is involved with conservation optimism. But hope is more than optimism. The best definition I've ever seen of Christian hope is the phrase, it's a fact of future truth. It's something that we may not be able to see now, but we can rely on this hope. And for us as Christians, we rely on that because of the character and the promises of God, because of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, that out of something absolutely hopeless, God brought new life and new hope. And out of the gift of the Holy Spirit, who daily makes all things new and brings life into every creature. And what Fazlun talked about as the wildlife reappearing in cities and waterways and other places is a sign of that renewal that we see within creation. And then my sixth word is the word vision. I do believe that we need a renewed sense of vision for the kind of world we want. And the biblical concept that I would offer to this discussion and this dialogue is the term shalom, which is this wonderful Hebrew term, which is about restored relationships in every dimension. Shalom is not simply peace in the sense of absence of war. It is about a renewed relationship inside yourself, a renewed relationship with God, with your human neighbors, local and global, and a renewed relationship with the earth. And that integrated vision is an absolutely essential one, I believe. And it feeds into some of the quite serious discussions we've been having in the global conservation movement. As part of my PhD, I looked at Professor Georgina Mace's writings on why we care for nature. And she says there are four main reasons: nature for itself, nature despite people, nature for people, and people and nature. And she ends up saying that the last one has the most promise. And I would agree with that. But I would suggest, rather than people and nature, which suggests still that we're two separate things, it should be people within nature. We are people within nature. We are completely dependent on nature. And our economic systems, and I really liked Fazlun's questions about capitalism and about our economic systems, because our economic systems fail to recognize that we are people within nature and that our economies must operate in that way. They have to operate in a way that respects the rhythms of the earth. In nature, for instance, there is no waste. Nature is a truly zero waste system. Everything gets renewed and recycled. It is only our industrial economic system that has created unusable waste. And so we need to learn, we need to have cyclical economies, we need to have regenerative economies that learn from nature. We need to have biomimicry in our economic system as well. And then my final word is the word virtues. Virtues are values that stem from a deep place of faith. And although we are of many different faith traditions and perhaps some of no particular faith tradition here, virtues are something that we can share and where there is a huge amount of overlap. And we heard from Sonja about love as the supreme virtue, and I would completely echo that. And she also mentioned compassion, which is the one I want to just finish by focusing on. In Psalm 145, it says that the Lord loves all that he has made. He has compassion on all that he has made. And this word compassion, the Latin root suggests a fellow feeling, of being passionate alongside. But actually the Hebrew root for the word goes back to the word for a womb. And compassion is actually that motherly sense of care for something that is deeply connected to yourself, something or somebody. And we need that sense of compassion for our fellow human beings who are suffering around the world, the hundreds of millions who are now being made unemployed and maybe going hungry, and also for our fellow creatures, for the ecosystems that support them. We cannot divide humans and nature at this point in our history. We have to find ways where our virtues help lead us through. So those are the words I want to share. Just quickly again: fragility, interdependence, rhythm, hope, vision, and virtues that we can share. It's been a great privilege to take part in this, and I look forward to hearing more from others and to the questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'm taken by the choice of fragility. I think it's quite interesting because I think that it seems as though as humans we're constantly seeking security, and we're not very good at disaccord and complexity. And I think this is a challenging time for us where we're having to really face some of our deeper understanding about how we deal with the uncertainty that not only exists, but that we are co-creating, I suppose. So thank you, really interesting food for thought. Our next speaker is Alexandra Masako Goossens-Ishii, who works for Soka Gakkai International, a community-based Buddhist organization that promotes peace, culture, and education. SGI collaborates with other NGOs, faith-based organizations, and UN agencies to address global issues through activities such as raising awareness and engaging in dialogue grounded in the Buddhist teaching of respect for the dignity of life. Thank you, Alexandra. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for all the contributions that have been expressed. I myself and with SGI really feel so related to all the points that have been made, and it's been really inspiring. So maybe the first point I wanted to make would be the point that has been mentioned already about really the this grounding into the understanding of interconnectedness between all forms of life. And so this grounding that is really that really runs through so many tradition of wisdom is also what has been underpinning SGI activities in conservation. So especially activities in the Amazon, so with the Soka Institute for Environmental Study and Research. And so it's been really like how to put this emphasis on restoring in a way that is, as was mentioned, does not put human and nature separated, but that really enables this coexistence. As well as another element that I would like to share, which is the name of Soka Gakkai International. So Soka Gakkai in Japanese means value creation. So it doesn't mean value in the sense of specifically defined values. It's more a dynamic process, which means that in that sense, values is the positive aspects of reality that are brought forth, or we could say generated, when we creatively engage with the challenging reality. And so this is how we understand value creation. And so based on that, we really have also that principle of turning poison into medicine. And it seems that the current situation is really a moment where we can each facing our own reality, aware and connected with the reality of people around us, to really take that as an opportunity to really transform poison into medicine. The next maybe point I would like to focus on is, so this is really the perspective I feel that faith communities can bring, and that is, I feel very important, is education in a broader sense. So that we can really enable, so sometimes with like everything that we are told or we learn about biodiversity loss, about the reality, about climate change, about COVID, all the facts can really leave us quite overwhelmed and powerless, with a feeling of powerlessness. And so I feel that education in a broader sense that will really inspire hope into this innate potential that each has to initiate change, starting with himself, herself, in his own community, her own community, is crucial. In that sense, that's why, at least with SGI and in relationship with the Earth Charter International, we developed exhibitions. And the latest one is entitled Seeds of Hope and Action. And it's going to be also something that we're going to keep focusing on, bringing stories of empowered people who are transforming their own lives and environment, and inspiring that change. And I would say probably especially with youth. And so that's why I'm very looking forward to IUCN Global Youth Summit as well, because I feel that it is crucial now that we keep having youth meaningfully engaged in the discussions, and that we can really share, learn from their vision and share vision as well. And yes, the next element I would say would be really relationships. So it has been mentioned already, but at the core of Buddhism is really this relationship. So relationship with oneself, relationship with other beings, relationship with environment or nature. And so having really networks that promote relationships that will unite people, this is really crucial. And so I think that's why we also value many of the initiatives that have been mentioned, or the one that will be mentioned with IAD probably, and also the International Network on Conservation and Religion, for instance, or these initiatives that also seek to foster relationship are very crucial. And finally, maybe to conclude, I would like to provide maybe a vision for in thinking about youth and about really towards 2030, a way of empowering youth for them to, and me and us, I guess, to unleash really these unlimited capabilities and capacities and potential that we have. I think that really 3 points are really important. So one is that we can promote a common awareness and really universal sense of history in order to prevent the repetition of tragedies. And so really to address inequalities in that sense. The second one is to promote the understanding that Earth is our common home. So really through awareness raising, where no one is to be excluded on the basis of difference. And there, the principle of the SDGs, leave no one behind, is particularly crucial. And then the third one is to really promote the human orientation of politics and economics, cultivating the wisdom needed to achieve a sustainable future. And this relates to what has been mentioned already, addressing truly the economic system and the question of environmental justice in that sense. So I think that's what I would like to contribute for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. I like that you've regrounded us into the interconnection of all forms of life. And I think it's really wonderful that you've also brought the youth into this conversation, which of course I think we all agree with. And I was also looking forward to, and continue to look forward to, the Youth Summit for the World Conservation Congress in January, assuming it happens then.